And that speech by Senator Lugar, he really sent shockwaves through Washington earlier this week. And his basic point was that the surge in Iraq cannot achieve its goals because he says the Iraqi government isn't up to making the reforms that are needed. The military can't hold out for very much longer, and our own domestic political timetable. Isn't he right that time is running out for any kind of a bipartisan coming together on Iraq?
You know, this is the time may be running out politically in Washington, but it's not running out in Iraq, and that's the tragedy here. The fact is that the surge has just been fully implemented in terms of personnel being there. On the facts, reduced violence in Baghdad and incredibly reduced violence in Anbar province to the west, which al-Qaeda in Iraq was in control of about a few months ago. The surge is working. So you might say that in Iraq we've got the enemy on the run, but for some reason in Washington a lot of politicians are on the run to order a retreat by our troops even as they are beginning to succeed. And I think that's just plain wrong, contrary to our national security and unfair to our troops that are fighting it. Let's wait till September, which we said we would do, when General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker come back and give us a first-hand report.
Yet we have also seen, at least in the past, that whenever U.S. troops left an area, the violence returned because the Iraqi forces aren't up to it. And it's just clear, at least so far, that the Iraqi government hasn't been willing to meet any of the benchmarks that you and the Senate have called for.
Well, you're talking about two different things there, George. Let me say first that the political benchmarks, the progress on a hydrocarbon law or constitutional reform or provincial elections. I was there 3 weeks ago, I and every other American, right to the top with the President Bush talking to Prime Minister Maliki regularly by video conference means. We continue to tell them, you got to get this done. Why? Because it's a sign that the different factions are working together. But the reality is that the new strategy General Petraeus is putting into effect is clear, build, and hold. Clear neighborhoods of terrorists, start to rebuild those neighborhoods and hold them largely with Iraqi security forces. And that is being done. Half of Baghdad is now under our control, under the Iraqi security force control. Almost all of Anbar, which, as I say, was about to become the base for al-Qaeda in Iraq, and now is under coalition control with the support of Sunni tribal leaders, and we've got enough forces there now to chase our enemy, which we haven't done before. They've waited, come back in. We're now in Diyala taking the fight to al-Qaeda, and to order a retreat now, which is what some of my colleagues will ask us to do in July, is just outrageously wrong.
There are other ideas being considered in July. Senator Warner and some others are considering an amendment that would say essentially that if General Petraeus does not report in September that the Iraqi government has met the benchmarks, then there shall be a change in strategy. Are you willing to go along with something like that?
Well, John Warner is a dear friend. We've worked together for almost 20 years. I have great respect, so I'd always look at anything that he had to say. But, you know, I think we basically made a promise that we were going to give General Petraeus and the young men and women wearing the uniform for our country there, putting their lives on the line, who believe in this new strategy, give them the chance to work over the summer to see whether we could make it work. So I feel very strongly Petraeus is coming back in September. He's going to report to us. There'll be plenty of time then to decide whether we ought to take action.
And are you open to taking action in September if he reports that progress is not being made?
Depends on what he says. I mean, look, to me, George, you've got to view Iraq in a larger context. I had an Arab diplomat say to me 2 weeks ago that what is happening in the Middle East today reminds him of what happened in Europe during the 1930s, when Nazi Germany began to make moves and the rest of Europe and the United States did not act quick enough to stop the Second World War. He was talking about Iran. Iran is on the move in Iraq, Lebanon, Palestine, and Afghanistan. And if we pull out of Iraq, Iran and al-Qaeda are the victors. And so my answer is, as long as we have a reasonable chance of success in Iraq, then I'm going to say it's worth it for us to stay, because if Iran and al-Qaeda take over Iraq, they will destabilize the entire Middle East, and they will strike at us here at home
let me
with
turn
more frequency and ferocity.
Let me turn to our politics here at home. You recently stepped into